All right, so today we are finally getting to work on the dock. If you saw the previous episodes about the jet skis, one jet ski is running now. The other one, I'll update y'all on that one at the end. But it's technically, it's out there right now, the one that runs. The thing is, it's there's a word for it. It's not, safe. It's not safe right now. So if you look at the lift, it's kind of hard to see right now, but it's kind of like that. And that's because the cables are not wound properly. So this back end is a little bit higher than that side. And so it's kind of sitting like that right now. And the reason for that, if you look at this pipe right here, you will notice that the pipe is not straight. The pipe goes like that, and then it goes back. And the back half looks relatively straight. But at the very end, the thing that holds the pipe is crooked. It's kind of like that. I'll show it to you better once we get it off of there. But the mount at the back of the pipe is bent. The pipe itself is bent right here, and that is all not safe. So before we put any more weight on here, I need to fix all that, and the only way to fix all that is to take everything down. Now, I have done work on this lift before. Whenever we moved in about a year ago, it was not set up properly for our boat. We have a boat with a prop on the bottom, so you can see I had to make all these cutout notches there. I thought about filming this, but at the time I really wanted to get the boat in the water quickly. So I spent about 2 months working on it, and then we finally got the boat in the water. Immediately after that though, the boat fell out of the lift. So what happened is I replaced pretty much everything. Like I did all the work on the cradle, put new cables on, new pulleys, put some new mounts for the pulleys. But the one thing we didn't replace was the pipe in the middle. And so you saw this one right here. This one's bent. At the time, this one was straight, but our boat it's kind of heavy. And so after about a month or two, I guess the lift had just had enough, and I was raising it one day. I just happened to look up at the pipe and I saw it was starting to bend just like that pipe. So we stopped the lift, got everybody off, and then I was like, well, let's just see what happens if we lower it down. As I went down, down, and then snap, the pipe cracked in half. So the cable was still on there at that point, and I ran to get some straps or something to hold the boat, get the weight off the cradle. And as I was throwing a strap up top to try and secure the boat, somehow the whole thing fell apart. The cradle fell in the water, the boat fell in the water. Luckily, it was only a foot out of the water at that point, so everything fell straight down into the water, but it could have been way worse. So today we're gonna replace pretty much everything on here so we don't have that problem happen again. So for parts today, we are, I'd say, proudly sponsored by Boat Hoist USA. A little while back, I did a video about my lawnmower. The lawnmower came out and served me a beer on the dock here. And so after that video, I got an email saying, hey man, it looks like you have a dock, and I work for a dock parts company. If you ever need any parts, let us know. So Travis, the guy over at Boat Hoist USA, he hooked us up with a big discount. So big thanks to him and Boat Hoist. So we're gonna be using all their parts on this lift today. So we will be getting into exactly what we're using and how we're fixing it. We're gonna change some stuff up, but first I need to get this apart. The way I worked on this one before is I lifted the cradle all the way up above the deck. I put some 2x4s across, made a big plywood deck, put the cradle down on it, and then disconnected everything, and the cradle was just kind of sitting there on the wood. With this one though, we already have a deck, so I don't need to make a deck where I can get up there and work on things, or we have most of a deck anyway. So my plan for this one is to get the stuff off of here, crank it up, put it on come-alongs, or maybe I have some big ratchet straps, and get it suspended in the air so we can disconnect the cables, get the pull out of there, all that stuff, and then we'll go into what we're changing and how we're making it all work.
I'm can't believe those eyes, aquamarine. You plug and I'm like a fiend. You're the reason I get by. Hello, talking in the sky, moving closer to the light. Who knew life could be alive? Go night, one day, don't get what they say. I'm alright for you, babe. I'm alright for you, babe. No amount I could pay but made me feel this way. I'm alright for you, babe.
All right, so things are down, and I know this looks kind of sketchy, but really, this isn't the sketchiest thing I've ever done. So on the back here, well, we have ratchet straps because I ran out of come-alongs, and yes, these are Harbor Freight ratchet straps. But this is only like the second time I've used them, so they probably won't break till next time I use them. Over here, oh look, we have more Harbor Freight come-alongs, and I have come to the conclusion that any problem in life can be solved with enough come-alongs. So whenever that boat cradle crashed down into the water and was sitting on the floor, I used a series of come-alongs to hoist that back up. So yeah, you can do anything with enough come-alongs. Up there, put some bolts in the rafters to attach come-alongs to, and that's how we lowered that drive pipe. So that is our bent pipe that is now out. And so over here, yeah, it was bent. It doesn't look like it was cracked though, so that is good. We weren't too unsafe using it. And then over here, this is the part on the back, the pipe support that is clearly mangled and bent. That is not straight right there, so that needs to be replaced. So let's go take a look at the new parts. So this guy right here, this is our new drive pipe to replace that bent pipe that winds the cables. So Boat Hoist USA does sell these, but they're pretty pricey because they, as you can see, they're pretty hard to ship. So I actually got this one from a local welding supply shop. If you're in the DFW area and you're looking for one of these, this one is specifically galvanized. It's a 2-inch Schedule 40 galvanized pipe. They're hard to find, but Phillips Welding Supply in Weatherford, they have them, only 90 bucks for a 22-foot pipe. What we're gonna need to do is I'm gonna bring the old pipe over here. We're gonna mark where all the holes are. There's a hole for the drive motor, and then there's a hole for front cables, back cables. They just pass through the pipe and wind around it. And we're gonna cut it off somewhere around there because we don't need the entire pipe. So this is all the stuff that Boat Hoist USA hooked us up with. So in this middle box here, we've got some galvanized steel cable to replace our old cable that we cut off. Then we also have these, I'm gonna butcher the name, I don't remember what they're called. I think they're called double pillow block support brackets. And so the way this works, actually let me show you the old one first. So on this old pipe support, it's basically just a pipe around the other pipe connected to by a piece of steel to another pipe around another pipe at the other end. And so these are greasable, so they don't squeak and stuff. But what happens is, since it's just a pipe around a pipe and there's no seal, the grease leaks out. And so that's bad if you have something directly below where your pipe support is. So over here, this is kind of similar. It's a pipe around a pipe, but then it has a grease seal and bearings in here inside of this big housing right here. So that keeps all your grease inside the seal and it doesn't leak out on whatever you have below it. So what Boat Hoist took this up with is this dual pillow block kit. So that pillow block I just showed you, there's one here, there's one here, I still need to bolt these in, and then they're connected by this bracket right here. And so typically what you do is you take that bracket, attach it to these brackets, and your wooden joist would go in the middle right there, and you screw it in, you know, kind of wherever you need to. The problem with my dock, we realized as I was talking to Travis about everything we need, is I have steel beams, and you can't really steel into C-channel beams like you would with a normal bracket for wood. So he came up with this type of bracket right here, and so our bolts are going to go like that. We will sandwich the steel beam in between there, and then that will hold our pipe up. So we got one for the front, there's another one over there for the back. Those will be our pipe supports, but they introduce a problem because what happens is the thickness of this bracket right here, that means our pipe is going to drop down that much. So we need to move our motor, the drive motor on the dock down the exact same amount, which is, I think I measured the other day, it's like 1 3/4 inches, and it's going to be just barely at the bottom of how much room we have on the plate that mounts it to the docks. I didn't really want to have to do that, but this is the better way to do it. It's not going to drip grease all over everything. It'll last really long. It's super overkill for what we're doing. Those pillow blocks can support a lot of weight, so we don't have to worry about things falling out of the sky. I just, I have an idea of how to move the motor. The thing is, like, all this stuff that you see, it's really not that heavy individually, but when you get it up over your head, it becomes very heavy very quickly. So it's just kind of tiring doing all this, but we'll get it done. So I'm gonna move the motor, cut the pipe, drill some holes, put these on the pipe, come along to get it up and start mounting things back in to where they go, and then we'll show you the trick for the cable, which my father has patented. It's his idea, but we'll show it to you anyways. So it turns out we have a slight problem. So remember I said the motor assembly had to come down to accommodate those brackets for the pillow blocks. Well, I knew it was going to be close. I didn't know how close it was going to be. So these bolts need to come down 1 7/8 inches, and if you look where that is, it's right there. It's right at the very bottom. So you can't put a bolt into a beam and put a nut on the back of it. It just doesn't work. So I had two ideas. Number one, take the bolts out, turn them around, weld them on, make them studs, and that might work. So what this motor does is these bolts, all they have to do is they hold up the weight of this plate assembly. Then they have to be strong enough that whenever this turns the pole, it doesn't fall off. So my other thought that I think is going to be stronger is cut a little notch out of the bottom of this C-channel, because this thing, it really doesn't need this much support. So we'll cut out a notch, probably weld on another plate with a hole in it where the bolt needs to go, and that I think will be stronger than just making studs out of bolts. So all this has got to come down now. I was just going to kind of shimmy it around before, but now it's got to come down, so wish me luck.
You know I can't stop thinking about how you keep on missing what's mine, what I could be. Late nights have got me feeling like I should keep on listening to the streets. Turn out the heat. I can make magic, taken for granted. Can't say it's over, lover, and I keep talking to myself lately. Keep talking to myself lately. I know we got together and forever, but gotta find a way to make it work without all the ones. No, I can't do a compromise. Yeah, I know it's true. So let us fall into consensus. With right and wrong, we'll find the fixes. Oh, I mean, we can't pretend, but I'm benevolent, just so you know. I can make magic, taken for granted. Can't say it's over, lover, and I keep talking to myself lately. Keep talking to myself lately. Remember how we used to feel like nothing's better. Walk to your doorstep thinking I can't live without her. Eyes closed for a minute, feels right now in it. Hands around your waist, real talk, no gimmicks. She's a witch. I can make magic, taken for granted. Can't say it's over, lover, and I keep talking to myself lately. Keep talking to myself lately. I can make magic, taken for granted. Can't say it's over, lover, and I keep talking to myself lately.
All right, so we are pretty much back together and ready to start winding the cable. So the motor and all the pillow blocks, everything has been greased. I think I mentioned at the beginning that I didn't really want to reuse old things, but we're reusing the pulleys in the four corners. And the reason for that is we have some really tight tolerances here. You can see the platforms touching the dock right now, and there's not much room over there. So we need the pulleys in the exact right spot, and they already are. And these are actually sheathed pulleys, so there's not bearings in them. It's basically just like a circular pulley running on a pin going through it, and so that can support a lot more weight and last a lot longer, and they don't have really any play in them, so I think they're going to be just fine. The pillow block brackets, those weren't too bad to get up there. I went ahead and put up the brackets first, put the pillow blocks on the pole, got the pole in the motor, let the pole kind of align everything, loosely put everything together, and then when everything was in the right spot, just kind of tightened it all up, and I think we are good to go on the pole. The steel cable or galvanized wire rope, whatever it's called, I made a mark in the middle with electrical tape, so as long as we don't see that tape come out of the pole, that means we are centered. We've got these PVC protector things on here, so this is just to go over the clamps and the end of the wire rope so you don't hurt yourself on it if you're walking around and you hit it. And so that brings us to the super secret Father Awesome winding method. Now, don't tell anybody I told you this, or at least not him. So the way this works is you need to keep tension on the cables in order to wind them properly. So that means you either have to have like a person standing down here and holding a rope in each hand, and a person standing down there and holding a rope in each hand, and then somebody else operating the controls, or you can do this super secret method and have one person do it all. So what we're going to do is we've got the cables all hooked up here. There's only one clamp on each corner, and it's just very loosely attached. These bolts are only finger tight, so it's just kind of holding some tension on the cable, and we're going to have that on all four corners. And then we're just going to go and we're going to turn on the lift, and it will wind the cable, and the clamps will keep the tension on each side for us. It may buck a little bit. That just happens, you know, when it kind of grabs sometimes, but I've done this at least a few times before. My father's done it, he came up with it, and it works. So we're gonna do it again. And then when we get close to the end, I'll get out the level, we'll tighten the clamps, get everything level and cinch down. We can go up and we can go down. So it works. Nothing has fallen out of the sky yet. Everything is level. The only thing that's wrong, which is not my fault for once. So I mentioned tight clearances, right? So over here, we're just a little bit off the ladder, and that's totally fine. Over here, we are still rubbing on this pole when we go up and down, and I was hoping that leveling everything out would solve that, but it did not. And I figured out why. So actually, if you look at this pulley mount right here, it's right up against that steel beam. And this guy over here, he's like 2 inches off of it. That's why we have clearance on this pole, and we do not have clearance on that pole. That pulley actually needs to come out like 2 inches. So I just spent an entire weekend redoing this lift though, and I'd rather be out enjoying the water than moving a pulley. That'll take me like a whole nother day probably. So that's a next season problem, but you know what we could still do? As usual, I think there's like one more thing we could do to make this lift a little more awesome.
I'm in love with you.
There you have it. The lift is done. The lift is also blue. There's really no reason for that. I mean, it was just a fun color. We had a yellow, well, this is technically citrus green. We had a citrus green lift. We decided we should do something else, so we have a blue lift. It's just kind of fun. I mean, have you ever met anybody who's about to go out on a jet ski and said, I don't want to have fun? If you're wondering what this thing is up top there, I don't really know myself. At some point, this was clearly like a boat slip, and somebody put these poles here so they could pull into it. And I think they put that material over top so they wouldn't scratch their boat. At first I left it white and then it just looked dingy, so I painted it and now it just looks blue and dingy. But that doesn't really matter because at some point over the next year, I'm going to reconfigure this boat lift. So we do have the third jet ski, which if you'll notice, there's not room for a third jet ski right now. I have a few different ideas on how to redo the lift to do that, but that's for a later time. The lift is working great. All the pillow blocks and the motor and everything, pulleys, it's all doing good. It's operating as it should. But anyways, big thanks to Travis and Boat Hoist USA again for hooking us up with the parts. If y'all need any boat lift parts, go there. Link will be in the description below. They're always super fast with the shipping. I usually get stuff the next day or the day after because I'm only like 3 hours from their shop, but super fast. And this is the part where we get to the problem. So we just did all that work on the lift, right? And the bad part is I'm only gonna get to use it for like another week or two. So if you notice, I've been talking about this boat that isn't here. That's because last weekend we pulled it out of the water because the water is now so low that we had to like push it off the cradle last weekend. So it's on the trailer right now, so we can go to the marina, do that thing. But that's like an 8-foot tall retaining wall right there. And it's got about 3 or 4 inches until you can see the ground. So we're not gonna have water for much longer. Every day it's like over 100 degrees. There's no rain in the forecast. And so at some point, probably in the next 2 weeks, this thing will start to see sand. I've got a contingency plan for that, so don't worry about that. But let's take a look at that third ski real quick because I figured out the problem. So if you remember, the second free jet ski had bad compression, and then whenever you went to try and turn the crankshaft, oh no, you can't turn it because there's no engine in there. Oh no, what happened? Let's just say the only way to fix it was to take out the engine, and the free jet skis just got significantly more expensive, but we're gonna make it run. It's gonna happen, so stay tuned for the next episode where we, let's just say there's a jet ski engine and there's pickle beer. So we'll see you then. Y'all are right above the water, so don't fall. So actually, worst part of working on a dock is not the weight, the stuff over your head. It's losing tools in the lake. I'm on the last bolts of this bunk right here, and I just dropped my socket in the water. Good news is it can join my other tools that are down there from working on that. So I was just out painting the dock and I found the third leg to my tripod that broke off earlier today, went in the lake, a random piece of plastic, and Uncle Jerry's favorite fishing lure. Jerry, if you're out there. So this morning when I started, it was completely calm, and now it's not completely calm, and as a result, I blew myself.